Good morning, everyone. If you could please start taking your seats, we'll get underway in just a couple of minutes. Please make sure you've registered first before coming inside. All right, a few more people still finding their seats. Welcome to everybody just coming in now. Just while everyone's taking their places, I'll run through a little bit of housekeeping. The bathrooms, you may have found them already, but as you exit this room, they're just off to your right. In case of an emergency, there are gathering points out on the lawn by the river and also on the Morford Street Bridge. Please follow the instructions of Convention Centre staff if needed. And very importantly, morning tea will be served after this event concludes today in the gallery area, hoping that you can all stay with us and enjoy chatting, getting to know each other, having a look through that space once we finish up. Please make sure you've registered before coming in and taking your seat. To begin today's event, I'd like to welcome Robert Taylor, a proud Kaurna man for our welcome to country.
Nyankinya mena, namani. Mani nabuni, nyaluku yata, tanda ganyanga, garawira pari gana yata. Nyari Robert Kari Karamu Taylor. Nyanyaranjiri, Nangaraku, Naranga, Kumagana Mirna. Mani nyalu tampedi gana mirna. Kumanyalu parna yatanga, imbrendi. Tamdalu bukyana, burkana, kumagana mini yala. Na yakandalia, na yungandalia, na chalya. Ladies and gentlemen, did you understand all that? A little bit? Did you hear Robert Taylor? Yes? So the language I spoke is the language of my ancestors. My ancestors being the owners of the traditional land that we're gathered on today. This place we now call Adelaide. Funny word, that one, isn't it? Adelaide. Of course, I think it's only been called Adelaide for about 40 seconds, I think, in the course of history. But for thousands of years been known as Tarndaganya. Can you say that one? Tarndaganya, very good. Tarnda is the big red kangaroo. This place here is the dreaming place of the big red kangaroo. It's quite a significant story. It's also a part of our law here in our country. This dreaming story runs from here right through the middle of Australia, right up to the Northern Territory, up to Arnhem Land. If we ask them fellas up there, they'll probably tell us that it starts up there and it runs down here, yeah? So in the spirit of this land here, this country, it's Kaurna country. We have over 250 surviving Aboriginal languages here still surviving in our country. So the language I spoke is the language of the Kaurna people. And I said Namani. Namani is a basic greeting, meaning are you good? And if you're well, you reply with Marani. Should we try that together? All right, Namani. Very good. So if you hear a Kaurna person greet you in Kaurna language in the future, you make sure you tell them that you learnt that from Robert Taylor, okay? Not Jack Buxton. Jack's my cousin, brother, so it's okay. I can say that. I said, Mani Nabudi Nyaluku Yata, Tanda Ganyanga Garawira Parigana Yata. So on behalf of my Kaurna elders and ancestors, past and present, it's a pleasure to be here today and welcome you here onto Kaurna land along the banks of the Red Gum River, Garawira Pari, the River Torrens. So to begin with, I'm gonna share a little bit of this humble instrument here, the humble didgeridoo. It's not traditionally from down in this part of our country. It comes from the top of the Northern Territory up in Arnhem Land, and its traditional owners are the Yolngu people. It's been called a didgeridoo, once again, like Adelaide, for 40 seconds in the course of history. But for thousands of years, it's been known as yidaki. Can you say that one? Yeah. Very good. And it's a man's only instrument. When I was a young fellow going to school, there was a rumour going around that if a woman played the didgeridoo, she'd get pregnant. It's actually quite the opposite, yeah? Women have in the reproductive system, when we play this instrument, it puts a lot of pressure on the lower abdomen. So it's culturally appropriate. Our ancestors found out through trial and error that it's culturally appropriate for men only to play this instrument. It did make it to this part of the country before Western settlement, but it's not traditionally from down here. The sounds that we do through this instrument is up to our own imagination, yeah? Over the years, I used to do a bit of beatboxing, a bit of hip-hop and stuff like that. And I was out at a school about 13 years ago, and I was doing a bit of beatboxing and stuff through the yidaki, and a little girl put her hand up. She must have been in year 4. She said to me, "Can you do Justin Bieber?" You know the song, 14, 13 years ago. And I said, "Yeah." And I tried it, and guess what? I'll never do it again, yeah? I like to keep my sounds traditional, so I'm going to teach you a little bit of language briefly. As I mentioned, this land that we're gathered on, being the dreaming place of the big red kangaroo, Tarnda. Can you say Tarnda? Very good. So if we can imagine a nice big Tarnda hopping along down here along Garawira Pari, the Red Gum River, it may sound something like this. All right, so where there's a mummy kangaroo and a daddy kangaroo, quite often you'll find a baby Joey. Another animal that we have here in our country is that big flightless bird. The emu. We call that one curry. Can you say that one? Who said curry up the back? Although some curry can be very, very nice, yeah? So that male curry, that male emu, makes a grunting sound. feed of the kangaroos and the emus is that wild dog. The dingo. We call him Gudley. Can you say that one? All right, I hope you're paying attention because you're going to be tested on your Ghana just before morning feed is coming, all right? So that Dudley, he howls like a wolf. So little kangaroos and emus take off running, yeah? Having a good old laugh, that little bird that lives up in the gum tree. The kookaburra. I'll give you the answer to the question, don't I? But do you know how many people say koala? I think to myself, have you ever heard a koala laugh? That kookaburra, we call him Nungana. Can you say that one? It never ceases to amaze me how such a little bird can have such big lungs, yeah? Maybe I should sit down with the kookaburras and learn some breathing techniques to help me out with the iraki, yeah? I go camping quite a bit, ladies and gentlemen, up in the Riverland. We're lucky enough to have a little bit of land up there through native title, me and my family. And every morning when I'm up there, especially during the summer and the spring months, there's this little kookaburra that comes and wakes us up at about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said to my daughters, when we come back up here in the springtime, remind Dad to bring his boomerang with him. Yeah? We call the boomerang wadna. Can you say that one? So when I'm up there and I hear that little kookaburra early in the morning, I'm going to sneak out of my swag and I'm going to chuck my boomerang at it. Got him. We'll have a kookaburra for breakfast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so once again, my name's Robert Taylor. I come from 4 different Aboriginal groups, the Ngarrindjeri from the lower parts of the River Murray and the Coorong, or traditionally known as the Kurunk, the Nangaraki from about where Mannum is up until around where Morgan is along the River Murray, the Narungga people from the York Peninsula, and of course the Kaurna people from here in Adelaide, or as we now know, Tarraganya, the dreaming place of the big red kangaroo. When I welcome people to country, I don't stand in front of you and do it at you. I stand alongside you, yeah? I do trust that we are all educated enough to know about the true history of this country. So I don't state facts, I share knowledge. And I think it's very important for that message to come across these days. We do live in one of the most multicultural countries in the world. And, you know, we pay our respects to the traditional custodians, the people who've looked after this land for thousands and thousands of years. But in today's society, it's very important that we all look after this place. We all call this place home, yeah? No matter our cultural beliefs, our religious beliefs, which language we speak, or our skin colour, we are all brothers and sisters. And we mustn't forget the past, but we mustn't dwell on the past. And it's very important that we all come together as one in harmony. To leave that with you, I don't like to say goodbye because goodbyes are so final, yeah? We don't actually have a term for goodbye. It's more of a see you later, yeah? Have you fellas heard Nuckin? You heard the black fellas say Nuckin? They're quite popular, these Ngarrindjeri mob, aren't they? But we're down here on Kaurna country, and our term for see you later is Nakura. Can you say that one? Nakura. And that means we'll see you again when our paths meet. Now, Chalia, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Robert, for that wonderful welcome. We really, truly appreciate it. I'd now like to welcome the Health Minister's representative today, Mr. Michael Brown MP, to the stage, the member for Florey.
I like that photo, I'm a bit thinner. Good morning. I acknowledge that the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I'm delighted to be with you to represent the South Australian Government as we gather to mark the beginning of Brain Injury Awareness Week. It is encouraging to see so many who are committed to championing the needs of people with brain injuries, which can have so many consequences for so many lives within our community. Our theme for this week is no two brain injuries are the same, no two journeys are the same. And that message couldn't be better underlined when comparing our feature speakers today. Damien DeWitt acquired his injury suddenly in an accident, whereas John Platten acquired his while playing the sport he loved, unaware at the time of the aggregated damage of many years of knocks to the head. Today's event is designed to promote awareness and understanding of acquired brain injury and its impacts, and to hear from people with lived experiences, sharing their stories and various journeys. In whichever way it was acquired, by accident, successive concussions, medical episodes, or other circumstances, a brain injury has a life-changing impact on those who suffer it and the lives of those they touch. Their contrasting experience emphasised the need for a greater understanding of the science behind the different threats, different injuries, and different treatments. SA Health plays an important role across the healthcare continuum following an acquired brain injury. Our acute hospitals provide high-quality, evidence-based neurological interventions to people in the acute phase following a brain injury, whether traumatic or non-traumatic. The South Australian Brain Injury Rehabilitation Service, now based at the Repat Health Precinct, has been providing interdisciplinary specialist rehabilitation to people from across our state and for consumers in Western New South Wales and the Northern Territory since 1987. The service incorporates a 24-bed inpatient unit, home and community-based rehabilitation programs, and outpatient clinics, including a concussion clinic. Community organisations such as BISA play an important role in the ongoing journey for people with a brain injury, as both a peak body and a service provider. To Brain Injury SA, I say thank you for your important work with the brain injury community, and thank you for inviting me today to meet with you and to listen to your stories. Together we can all make a difference. The South Australian Government is committed to advancing awareness of brain injury and to finding new ways to help those who have experienced brain injuries and for those who share their lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'd now like to share a message from the Honourable Amanda Rishworth MP, the Federal Minister for Social Services, who sends her apologies today. It is with regret that I am unable to attend the launch of the Brain Injury Awareness Week event hosted by Brain Injury SA today in Adelaide. Today marks the start of an annual week-long celebration of brain injury awareness. This week is an important opportunity to put the spotlight on brain injury to raise awareness of the prevalence and impact a brain injury can have on an individual and their family. More broadly, this week highlights how we as a society can be more inclusive and welcoming in our workplaces and the community so that someone with a brain injury can lead a fulfilling life after injury. I know that everyone deserves inclusive, accessible and welcoming spaces, whether as a workspace, a space to learn, to thrive or to find a community. I also know that, unfortunately, barriers for people with disability continue to persist. The Australian Government is committed to addressing those barriers. Creating a community that is accessible and inclusive and changing community attitudes about people with disabilities is a particular focus of mine and a key outcome under Australia's Disability Strategy 2021 to 31. The strategy is the shared policy framework agreed to by all governments, and I'm responsible as the lead minister in the Australian Government for its delivery. At its heart, the strategy is a commitment to create an inclusive community. And I believe that inclusiveness should be a whole of community goal that we all need to work together to achieve. I would like to thank Brain Injury SA for hosting this event, and also Damien and John for sharing your stories today. Best of luck to the nominees of the Embrace Life After Brain Injury Award. I wish you all a successful event. Good morning again, everyone, from me this time, and welcome to the launch of Brain Injury Awareness Week 2023. My name is Isabel Damon, and I'll be your MC for today. I'm a journalist with ABC News here in Adelaide, and I'm delighted to have been asked to be involved in today's launch event for this incredibly important cause. I would like to welcome everyone here today, including attendees with lived experience of brain injury, as well as families, supporters and business groups, along with anyone else attending to learn and share in awareness raising of the lives of people living with brain injury. I would also like to thank those joining us via the live stream from South Australia, across the country and from overseas. On behalf of Brain Injury SA, I would also like to take this moment to thank our sponsors. Today's presenting partner is the Lifetime Support Authority. Our major event sponsor is Interact Australia, along with Medimart, the Brain and Body Fitness Studio, a service of the Hospital Research Foundation, and Mellor Olsen Lawyers. Thank you for your generous and deeply valued support for the launch of this year's Brain Injury Awareness Week and for your attendance today. Through my work as a journalist, I've been privileged to learn about and share the stories of many South Australians from all different walks of life. Over the past 10 years, this has included people with lived experience of brain injury and their families. Sometimes they've been stories of immense challenges and about the barriers that still exist in our community. Other times, they've been stories of huge strides forward, of hope and of strength. Often, they've been both. Today, I look forward to sitting down with our guest speakers as they share their unique experiences and unpack exactly what today's theme means to them. As Michael touched on, our theme today is My Journey. It's a theme that recognises that no two brain injuries are the same, and therefore no two journeys are the same. The 4 South Australians we'll hear from today each have very different stories and have so far traversed very different paths. But as you'll hear, there are common themes of perseverance, adaptability and determination. Each will share their story today with hope that it'll indeed increase vital awareness of brain injury in our community for the good of all of us, not just those with lived experience. Following each guest speaker today, we'd love to provide the opportunity for anyone who'd like to ask questions to do so in one of 2 ways. We'll have a roving mic going around during our Q&A session if you'd like to ask a question that way. Alternatively, you can submit your questions through your mobile phone by scanning the QR code on your seat. There's a little flyer that you'll find. It'll also pop up on the screen behind us when we open the floor for questions. We'll do our best to get to everyone's questions. However, depending how many we have, we may need to come back to you after the event with some answers from our guest speakers. Now it is my pleasure to invite our first guest speaker to the stage, Damien de Wit. In 2005, Damien was a young man with a big dream and determination to build a successful career for himself while finding love and having kids. But all of Damien's big plans changed when he became the target of a rock-throwing incident. A person driving an oncoming car threw a rock out of their window straight into Damien's vehicle. This high-profile incident resulted in Damien acquiring a traumatic brain injury, and he's been living with the impact of that moment ever since. Damien persevered through therapy, multiple surgeries, and his own grief at how the incident changed his life. Now, almost 20 years on, Damien credits his stoicism to his family, his sense of humour, and to his determination to move on with his life, letting go of feelings of anger and vengeance. Damien, welcome. Damien, thank you for being here today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. Everyone can hear me, I assume? Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Yes, nods all round. Thank you, everyone. Damien, I know that you've spoken about this story quite a few times now, but please, can you start by taking us back to that day in 2005? What happened and how did it change your life?
It was just a normal day. It was my nan's birthday. We went out for tea. It was the last day of my holidays. I'd taken 3 weeks off work and we went out for tea. I got home from tea and thought, I'm due to go back to work tomorrow. I've got no petrol in my car. I don't want to be hindered on the way to work in the morning. Don't want to be late, so I better run down and get some petrol. Got some petrol on the way home. That's when it happened, and I wasn't late for work. I didn't go back to work, so and my life changed. And I'd never understood the seriousness of how much it had changed until about a year later, when I was still wrapped in bandages and wasn't going out drinking beers with my mates anymore.
You said about a year later, so what were you thinking and feeling during that time in those early days of your recovery?
I think I was just blissfully ignorant to how serious it was. In my mind, I was always going to get back to being the person that I was before it happened. Call me, eternally optimistic that I was just going to get back to being that young, positive guy that was enjoying life, was building my career, was having fun with my mates, looking for love, like you mentioned before, and just not aware of the seriousness of what had happened to me.
When that seriousness sunk in, I suppose, what came next? Who was there for you at that time, but what did you have to process?
I don't know if I really processed anything. It was just that I remember exactly where I was. I was out the back of my parents' house, and it was a Saturday night, and my mates were very supportive of me, and they still are today. And they'd all come to my house before they went out for the night and drank beers around. I wasn't drinking beers, but they drank beers around me before they went out for the night. And then they'd left, and I just was out the back on my own, and I thought, wow, this is serious, because it's 12 months later. My head still had bandages around it, and I wasn't going out, but my mates were, and they were doing the right thing by me by being there with me before they went out, but I wasn't going out again. And I just remember thinking, well, looking at the sky, thinking, well, when am I going out again? And I haven't been to this day. I haven't drank beers with my mates and gone out again. That's the way my life has changed, and I don't want to sound like an alcoholic, or that my life is focused on drinking beers, because there's greater priorities in my life right now. I've got a beautiful son who's my priority. He's my number one, and everything I do is for him. And I've got great friends. Let's not get lost on beer, okay? But as a 25-year-old man, I believe that I worked hard all week, and on Friday night I deserve to kick back with a six-pack of beer, or maybe more. I'm not going to lie. And go out with my mates and have fun. And 12 months later, that still wasn't happening. And that's when it sunk in that my life has changed. It's not going to be what it was. And I still wasn't working, so I was struggling with an identity, because in our society it's, what's your name, what do you do? And if you say, my name's Damien and I'm going through surgery, people turn around and walk away. They don't say, oh really, tell me about it. It's not, I was losing my self-identity, my self-esteem, and it's really hard not to sink into a state of depression at that stage. So I was just so lucky I had such a strong family network, a strong group of friends who made sure they did their best to get around me and support me and keep me up, keep me about. And for myself, I guess I was lucky. I'm just a positive person that made jokes, sick jokes, I guess, but it got me through it.
Your mum was a big part of that process too, wasn't she?
My poor mum. Yeah, because I had to wear a helmet because half my skull was missing. And you wear a helmet in 35, 36, 37, 8-degree days, and half your skull is missing, your head hurts like hell, and you just get sick of it, you throw it down the street, and my poor mum had to chase it. She's crying, I'm yelling, abusing her because I'm not me. And she held the family together. She was a brilliant woman. She is alive. I'm talking like she's dead, but she's alive. She's still the nucleus of our family, and the matriarch, I guess you would call her.
How did you process the randomness, or maybe the senselessness of what happened to cause your injury?
It might sound stupid, but when they first told me after I woke up from the coma, I think I laughed at it, because who can fathom someone driving around in their car throwing rocks out? I mean, that just sounds ludicrous. I mean, no normal person would do that. I mean, I don't think there's anyone in the room that could understand the senselessness of someone driving around in their car throwing rocks out their window. No, I wouldn't do it. And it just sounds so absurd to me that someone could even think to drive around in their car and throw rocks out their window. I just couldn't fathom it, to be honest.
You've spoken about letting go of vengeful feelings and focusing on the positives, moving on. What do you mean by all of that?
Well, I remember when I first started driving again, and that was a great thing. But part of my silliness was I always used to say "rock on." It's the '80s. That was one of my catchphrases, right? That was like a party term to me. And so when I was able to drive again, I got number plates that said "rock on." Double meaning there, like I'd been smashed in the head with a rock. So, and also I was alive. I was still standing, and I hadn't been beaten. So rock on was like, I've been banged on the head with a rock, but I'm still alive. I'm still going to live my life. And I'd go to the servo, and people would, because the Sunday Mail did a story about my rock on number plates, and people would recognise my car, and I'd get bailed up in the servo for about 45 minutes by people telling me, don't you want to kill that guy? Do you want me to kill him for you? And and that's such a great thing to have people so supportive of me and with my family. But at the end of the day, if the guy that threw the rock at me had his hands cut off, so he can't pick up a rock, or he's in jail for the next 50 years, how's that changed my life? It doesn't make me suddenly be the stunning young man that I was before. It doesn't fix the cavities in my head. It doesn't make me go on my career pathway and earn $200,000 a year. Only I can do that. Only I can go through the surgeries, the hardship, and return my life to what it was. Him being in jail for 50 years doesn't change my life. So if I'm going to spend my time in my bedroom crying over him and what he did to mess up my life, it doesn't change me. I change me. My attitude changes me. So to be upset about him and think about him is a waste of my energy. So forget him. He's got his own problems. His problems cause mine. He's got to live what he did. Move forward. Focus on me. Focus on the group of people that are loving me, supporting me through it, pushing me through it. And I've got a beautiful 12-year-old son who thinks I'm the greatest thing on earth. And I love him to bits.
Let's talk a little bit about your recovery. What are the challenges day to day, and what have your biggest achievements been over the past 20 years?
Well, my son's the biggest achievement. He's my success.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I guess the surgeries were hard, but so lucky living in Adelaide. I had Professor David and the craniofacial team just here, right in our backyard. I didn't have to travel interstate or overseas or anything. So how lucky is that, right? To have the best of the best in Adelaide is just fantastic. And the doctors at Flinders saved my life the night that it happened. I think if there's any regrets that I have is I rushed my recovery. My lack of identity, because I identified with who I was from my work, I rushed my recovery to get back to work. I wanted to get back to work so fast. So if I've had any advice to anyone going through what I went through, take your time. You only get one chance at it. Don't rush your recovery back. Don't rush your process back to work. Work will still be there. You will get opportunities to work somewhere else or another place. I rushed it, and I went back to work, and I wasn't the person I was before the accident, and I made people cry because I wasn't the same person. I rushed it, and just take your time. You know how you feel. The doctors and experts will give you the advice from the textbooks, but at the end of the day, you know who you are and where you're at and how you're feeling. So listen to the doctors, take their advice, but believe in you.
Why is it important to you that we raise awareness of brain injury in our community?
Because until it happens to you, it's another one of those things that won't happen to me. If someone had told me the day that it happened, don't go out tonight because someone's going to throw a rock through your window and it will change your life, I would have laughed at them and said, nah, that's not going to happen, and still gone out. So we need people to be aware, understanding, and just be respectful. It took me so long to walk down the street and look people in the eye. I'd walk down the street with my head down, and for so long I had to repeat to myself, no, you stand tall, you be proud. You've survived. I still do it now. I still catch myself out walking down the street with my head down. I say, you be proud. Stand tall, you be proud. And there's other people in the same boat as me. So you be proud. You survived.
Let's give Damien a huge clap. Certainly a lot to be proud of. Oh, Damien, before you run away, not quite done with you yet, I'm sorry. I've got to do some questions now.
Sorry, head injury.
Thought you could sneak away.
Head injury, sorry guys. And that's one you can use for at least 15 years. I've used it for 18.
Damien, thank you for those incredible sentiments. I think everybody here really appreciates it today. I'm seeing lots of nods and lots of smiles and a few teary eyes, so thank you. We have a microphone to be passed around. If anybody has a question for Damien, please pop your hand up now. Otherwise, as I mentioned before, you can scan the QR code on the flyer that you would have found on your chair as you came in and submit a question that way. Don't be shy, everyone. I know there are questions out there. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. Just bring that mic over to you. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, everyone in here, because this question isn't actually for everyone. I just want to say to you, I went through a brain injury myself, which I've got to apologise initially because every time I talk about it, it brings a tear to my eyes. But my brain injury was so severe that I shouldn't even be sitting in this room today. But you're the first person I've heard from who sounds like they've been through something that was similar enough to what I went through. I was written dead in intensive care at the Royal Adelaide Hospital for over a year with a 0% chance of survival, minus a skull, working 100% on machines. And I went through that hell, and I blew the world of medicine away after I managed to survive it. But given the incredible words I just heard from you, I'm just wondering if I could have a minute to have a little talk to you after this chat to finally speak to someone who I believe actually has an idea of the hell that I went through, because I believe we could really understand each other, and I think feels like one of the most amazing feelings I could ever experience. So could I please have a quick chat to you after this? Sorry.
Absolutely, mate.
No, thank you so much.
And doesn't that speak to why we're here today? Doesn't that speak to why we're here today, is having those conversations and allowing people to connect with each other's stories? Any other questions?
Thank you so much for sharing your story. I had a question in regards to the tools that you used. I know you talked about the support of your family, which is phenomenal. After I had my TBI, I'm actually an immigrant, so I had no family. I was a single mother. It was the hardest thing I've ever gone through, and I only relied on my own internal work to overcome it. And I was very interested to know where you gained that positivity. Was it just from the external, like people that were supporting you, or was there any other tools that you utilized to keep the positivity up and to use towards your recovery, and also to let go of those feelings of, I would imagine, of resentment, or even, letting go of that old identity, which I fully understand how challenging that is. What did you use to keep that positivity kind of high up on the agenda for you?
Sure. Look, I did, to help me return to work, I worked with a clinical psychologist, which was the best thing I ever did, because with the clinical psychologist, I was able to identify what the issues were and work out solutions to that. So to employ different ways of doing things. And so I was able to identify when things were going wrong. Okay, so what did I talk about with Andrew, my clinical psychologist, and how could we tackle this situation in a different manner? And that didn't happen straight away. It wasn't like, that shampoo had, it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. It was like that. It was a process that I had to work through, and I saw him for a long time. I'm talking 9 to 12 months. but it was something that I still carry with me today, and I've learnt skills from that I can employ now, and say, right, this isn't working, so how can I do this process differently? I turned to music while I wasn't working, and I bought myself a little mixer from Cash Converters for $45, and so this shows you how long ago it was. And I built upon those skills, so I wasn't just sitting and watching TV and being really hermit negative type process. I got myself a DJ mixer, and I learned skills with that. And then I bought a bigger DJ mixer that was more complex, and taught myself to navigate that, and started recording music, mixing music, making music mixes. I don't know how good they are, but it was something that I enjoyed and I really got focused in, and it gave me an identity a little bit, but not as much as my work, but it negated that void that I had.
Could we get the microphone just in the back corner there? Just while it's heading over there, we've had a question through our QR code, Damien. Andrew asks, after 18 years, do you still feel that you're improving, particularly your management of fatigue?
Fatigue is a killer, especially for me, because it's the right temporal lobe, which controls what alcohol does to you, guys. Filter, that's it. So when you get drunk, your filter gets null and void, and you get a bit loose. Well, I'm always drunk. So that's what caused me issues when I went back to work. If I thought you were a silly person, I told you, which makes people cry. So to control your filter manually is very, very fatiguing. So you guys who don't have a brain injury, take your filter for granted. So by the time I come home, I'm exhausted just from controlling my filter manually. And I'm not alone. For anyone who else has a brain injury, you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, so controlling that process manually is very fatiguing, and it's important that I get at least 5 hours sleep, a minimum. And also because the injury caused me post-traumatic epilepsy, so that's another impactor.
I think this might have to be our last one. Sorry, the gentleman up the back.
Damien, thank you for sharing your story. We understand that society stigmatises anything it doesn't understand, but we also understand that people with mental health conditions, TBIs, also can self-stigmatise. Did you go through a period of self-stigmatising?
Every day.
Yep.
Today.
Yep.
Tomorrow. Yesterday.
Yep.
That's what I talk about when I walk with my head down. I've just had the courage to apply for another job. I start tomorrow, after 18 years.
And what do you do day to day to overcome that?
You survive. I don't know. There is no recipe for that. That's individual. You survive. I don't know. There's no recipe for that, Isabel.
Is it determination, do you think?
I think it's a little bit of ignorance, avoidance, blissfully unaware. That's. I think it's. There is no words. You just have to survive. It's your network of family support. My son telling me, "Dad, can we play FIFA?" No, we can't play the PlayStation. Dad's tired. Go to bed.
On that note, Damien, thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, a big clap for Damien.
Thank you.
I'd now like to invite our second guest speaker up to the stage. Many of you will be very familiar with our next speaker, especially the footy fans in the room, John Platten. John enjoyed, yes, give him a clap. John enjoyed a long and extremely successful playing career across 18 years in the SANFL and AFL. He was awarded with both leagues' highest honours, a Brownlow Medal in 1987 and a Magarey Medal before that in 1984. It was a career that developed from a long-lasting passion for the game. John started his footy career very early at just the age of 6. But across that career, John suffered more than 30 concussions, ranging in severity and immediate impact. Today we'll hear about John's enduring love for the game, but also about the long-term impact he continues to feel now in his everyday life, and his hopes for what can be done differently for the next generation. John, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, Isabel. Damien, fantastic, mate. Well done. I know you're a bit nervous and you reckon I was going to take the floor, but I reckon that you have taken the floor, big fella. Love your story. The one thing wrong with him, he barracks for Port Adelaide, so...
Nothing wrong with that, John.
Oh, you didn't tell me this before. It's nice to be here. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah.
Yes, stick with me, please.
Yes.
John, tell us all, a lot of people here probably don't get to hear from people who've had your career. What did you love most about your football career?
Oh, just playing footy. Just a kid who came out of Elizabeth with a family of 9. We lived in a house and trust house. There was 9 of us in one house, and there were 6 boys in one room, 3 girls in another room, and his mum and dad in another room, which was very busy. As I said, Isabel, I just started when I was 6 years old. All my brothers and sisters played sport. Mum and dad played sport, so I was lucky enough to go out and play for Elizabeth, and had 9 years there. And probably in that 9 years, you could, to get life membership, you had to be there for 7 years. So at the age of 13, I was a life member at the age of 13, so I thought it was quite special. So. And then I was lucky enough to get picked up by Central Districts at the age of 15 in 79, and then 2 years later playing league football. So it was a bit of a journey for me as a kid. Always wanted to play football. Never wanted to be a fireman or a policeman, nothing like that. Just wanted to play footy.
Do you remember any particular collision or moment or injury that has stuck with you from your playing career?
Oh, look, there's been a lot of collisions. I played over my whole career through with Centrals and with Hawthorn and state games and international games. I played over 400 games, so try to pick one collision. There's probably too many to pick out one, but one always comes to mind, and I'm not sure if anybody's seen it, was the 89 Grand Final, which is an amazing game. It was probably classed as one of the best games ever. We played against Geelong, and I got whacked in the first quarter. And looking back on the replay, I tried to find where it was, and I couldn't find it because I was in packs and out of packs, and I'm a player that always got tagged every week. And when you get tagged, you get belted a bit as well. Try to put you off your game. So it happened in the first quarter sometime. I still cannot remember the time of the first quarter. And then at quarter time, when we go, Hawthorn were here and Geelong were over this side. It's the first quarter of the 89 Grand Final, 100,000 people there, and all you want to do is just play well and play the whole game out. So the bell went at quarter time. I can't remember this. I cannot remember driving to the game. I can't remember Alan Jeans's fantastic speech he spoke about, being here at the grand final in front of 100,000 people. I can't remember getting changed and warming up and things like that. So at quarter time, Hawthorn were this side. So we go to a huddle, and I actually went to the middle of the ground, started walking to the middle of the ground, and Alan Jeans told the doctor, better go see what Rat's doing. You better see what's he doing. So the doctor told me the next day, he said, John, you're walking down to the middle of the oval there. I said, yeah. I said, what was I doing? He said that he told me the next day that I said to him that I was going down to have a shower to get ready for the motorcade, which was the day before. So I was in cuckoo land for a long time. So I watched the rest of the game on the bench. I cannot remember anything of the game. I got up to get my medal, got my medal. I think I was on Jason Dunstall's shoulders, running around the ground, doing all sorts of things. But I finished up in hospital that night with concussion, and got up next day and just watched the replay. And it was funny because I cannot remember anything of the game, which was pretty scary.
Fast forward a couple of decades, I think, and you've since received information that I think it was 43% of your brain may have suffered damage through collisions and concussion. What has that meant to you, and how have you processed that information?
Yeah, it's pretty tough. I did a MEG test with Peter Jess over in Melbourne, who's following this all up, all this concussion dealings. So he asked me to do a MEG test. I said, yep, no worries. I did a MEG test, and the results went back over to the UK, and they came back about two weeks later. And he rang me. He says, "Oh, John, this is the results," and he said, "You have 43% of your brain being damaged through concussion." I said, "Oh, wow!" You know, like I was stunned. I didn't know what to do. Or, am I going to be okay? Am I going to die tomorrow or whatever? This sort of thing sort of goes through your mind. So he said, "Look, everything's okay." Well, thanks for that. And so it's something that you just have to deal with. Look, I'm okay. I have certain things, but I'm getting over those as well with a lot of research and things like that. But just to say that to someone to come up to you to say, over the phone that you've got 43 degrees of brain damage, it is a bit daunting at a time where you think that you're going okay.
And of course, through your playing career, there wasn't much known about concussion and the impact, and there weren't the protocols in place and the rest periods and even just the research, the basic research. I'm sure a lot of people in the room would be familiar with the incident at the showdown a couple of weeks ago between Port Adelaide and the Adelaide Crows, that pretty awful collision between Aliir and Lockie Jones. All of the fallout from that, and perhaps a pretty disappointing maybe response from Port Adelaide on the day. Someone in your position, what do you think when you see that kind of incident, everything we know now, and people being sent back on to play on?
Yeah, it was, well, I suppose I looked at it straight away. I thought that's very disappointing. He should have gone down, did the protocol, which is 20 minutes to do your concussion test. And then once, if you pass that, get yourself back up there and play the game. But Lockie Jones didn't finish up playing. He finished up having a migraine. I think he went down and had a test and he didn't pass it. But Aliir, I was just... mad, disappointing, because what we've done over the last 7-10 years of the protocols of concussion and what it causes is not that it was stupid. It was completely saddened, and Port Adelaide coach the doctor now should have taken him under, and I've heard that he's a good fella, Dr. Fisher, and. I think I have met him a couple of times, and look, I'm sure he's very, very good what he does, but on that day, it was very disappointing.
Do you think there's more in this space that needs to be done still to really equip professional sports people who do any kind of, contact activity, but also parents of young children? Is there more to do in this space in terms of awareness?
Oh, I think so. Look, especially for what's happened over the last 3 weeks against Port Adelaide, and we tell the story. But I think it just doesn't happen in AFL football, or I think it's in any sort of sport these days. And look, don't get me wrong, I love the AFL. I played it for so many years. I took everything out of it, what I could. The AFL have done a great job over the last probably 7 or 8 years now to bring in that protocol of 20 minutes, go and test yourself. You know, and then if you don't pass it, you've got to have 12 days rest. Now, which is good, but sometimes that 12 days isn't enough for a lot of people. And you talk about the recovery. Damien talks about the recovery. Some blokes should have a recovery. If they're not right, don't play. You know, like we probably went through the era where, oh, you be right, John, you be right, Dipper, you know, Dermot, all these sorts of blokes who I played with. They were tough fellas, and they knew when they were concussed and when they weren't. But they'll be right for the following week. But this day and age now, I think guys are realising now that it might take more than 12 days. It might take 3 weeks. It might take 3 months. The gentleman who Seaman, who's just retired from the Crows, I think hasn't probably played an AFL game for the last 18 months. It's taken him that long, which is it's not good for him, and I know that he loved the game. But now he's just said that he's retired due to concussions, which is probably good for his health. So in 20 years' time there, you can sort of sit back and say, look, I have done the right thing. Where back in our day, we'll just jump back on the field again and away we go.
So I suppose part of the conversation is stepping away from, you know, the need to be tough and just keep going and all of those stereotypes that probably exist a lot in sports still, and just take care of yourself. Yes, yeah, we were Superman. When I remember I was playing, I felt like I was Superman. I might have been 5'7" and weighing 60 kilos. I was Superman. I wanted to be the best player here and take the greatest mark and hit the greatest goal and tackle hard and this sort of stuff. But at times it worked. But look now, there's some signs now which is happening. Yeah. John, thank you for sharing your experiences with us today. Everyone, can we give John a huge round of applause?
I remembered.
Go ahead.
I remembered I didn't have to walk off. I had to wait for questions.
Very good.
So I was very, very, very smart. Sorry, Damon.
No dragging John back on stage. Okay, questions, everyone. Don't forget about the QR code if that's your preference. Yes, the lady at the back.
Hi, I just wanted to know from your concussions, what haven't you been able to do that you thought you would be able to do? So what's changed in your life? What has your concussions prevented you from doing? Okay, yep, great question.
I suppose over the last 10 to 15 years, I've seen a change in my mood. My wife has seen it. When you sort of start to hear about this, say 10 years ago, and people tell you about with the concussion, it's a word called CTE, which comes into it. I can't say it, but
I can't either.
Chronic trauma. I can't say the last word. But look, there's mood swings in myself. My sleeping habits has changed. I get lots of headaches. And people who know me, I'm a pretty lucky, happy sort of bloke, but things have changed for me. My wife has seen it over many, because she's lives with me and sleeps with me and all that sort of stuff. So she's probably seen it the most. I try not to show it in front of all my friends and my kids as well. They probably don't know the change in me at all, but in back at home it can be. At work at times it can be frustrating. I run a business. We run the Safety Hub. It's a safety company. I've got a business here in Adelaide, a business in Melbourne. I am a very busy man, which probably doesn't help as well. So, but that's sort of the moods that I've had over the last probably 10 years. Yeah. Robbie. Oh, sorry. I know Robert, so this will be a good question. So this will be a hard question.
Thank you, Robbie.
G'day, John. How you going, mate?
Good, mate.
Now, I've known you for 40-odd years.
Yep.
I remember when you were just starting, you prided yourself, you knew everyone's name. You knew everyone. And then you went to Hawthorn. When you came back, you still had that memory. In the meantime, you suffered all those concussions when you were with Hawthorn.
Mm.
And then I remember, and I've known you, obviously, ongoing, and you started calling everyone big fella because you could see that your memory started to lapse. But so obviously it's delayed memory. Like when you had the concussions, it took a while before the effect. Did you notice that? And if you did, how did that process? Because obviously you were unaware of the damage that the concussions caused you at the time.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't, and because we didn't have the awareness, the research as well. We didn't have that. Lucky enough that we've had research over the last sort of 7 or 8 years with the Peter Jess, the Greg Griffins, and also now with Dr. Rowena Mobbs, who's in Sydney. So I've been doing some tests with those guys over the last 7 years, and yes, the secret is out now. I do call everybody big fella because I can't remember their names. So thank you, Robbie, for coming today. But also, I call everybody a big fella because everybody's bigger than me. So,
I won't mind if you call me
so
big
you know
fella.
what I'm talking about, Isabel?
Big fella.
Yeah. Not as in tallness. So that's right. Yeah, it is, and it's very, very frustrating too, because I like to say hello to people by their first names, and unfortunately, I just cannot remember them at times. And these are the people that I've met the day before or last week, or my kids' friends come over and they say hello, and they've known me for many, many years, and I say to my wife, Leanne, I said, I cannot remember that kid's name. What's his name? It was Harry or someone like that. So, and then that gets me very, very, very frustrated, and that's when my mood swings and saying, oh, I should have remembered. So, so that's where I'm at. But I'm good. What Damien's been through, and I'm sure what a lot of other people in this room have gone through, has gone a lot worse than I have. So please don't feel sorry for me. There's a lot more people worse than me. Yeah.
And do you hope that, this week, raising awareness as I suppose, a continuing goal, do you hope that, maybe that frustration could be eased for others if people just understood a bit more about brain injury?
Oh, for sure. This is a fantastic week, and when I got the opportunity to do it through Jody, thank you very much for the invitation, and Cassie's done a great job to get me here, to remind me to get here. It's fantastic, and your job, Isabel, is great. All the research you've done, the stories. I know Michael's going to get up and tell a few stories as well, I think. So everybody has a different story, and I want to make sure that everybody knows the consequences, that we get the rest. And I don't want to scare any parents away of kids playing sports, playing football. There is a process there. If you feel that you are not right, don't feel that you have to play the next week. Give yourself plenty of rest, and then play when you think that you're going to be right. Maybe I was a bit naive about the whole situation because we never had this out when I was playing. We played because we're tough. We're tough, all right. But now, at times now, we are suffering as we get older as well.
John, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And for sharing your experiences and insights with us all. Thank you. Now for our final guest speakers for this morning. We're lucky enough to be joined today by 2 clients of Brain Injury SA, Jody Mannix and Michael Watson. We'll just give them a big round of applause, thank you, to who started that. Jody and Michael, you can make your way up on stage. We'll just get another chair set up for you. I'll tell you a little bit about our panellists while they're getting nice and comfortable on stage. Jody and her husband had planned an overseas trip, but when COVID struck, like many of us, their travel plans and plans to celebrate their 30th wedding anniversary changed. They instead decided to take a trip across South Australia. They were driving along a country road near Clare when their car hit a kangaroo, sending the animal through the windscreen. Jody ended up in the ICU at the Royal Adelaide Hospital for some time, though she doesn't have any recollection of the accident or the first month after. Jody continues to adapt to life today, living with what she describes as a non-visible injury, with the loving support of her husband and her children. Michael was an electrician working for himself and enjoying time with his family and with his church and playing his beloved bowls. But his life changed suddenly when he suffered a stroke in 2019. The resulting acquired brain injury meant Michael had to give up work and relearn many of the day-to-day skills he'd previously taken for granted. He's making improvements all the time with support from his team and his loved ones, and has maintained a wicked sense of humour throughout his recovery journey. Thank you both for joining us today. Thank you again, both of you, for being here today.
Thank you.
Those microphones should be on for you. We can give Cooper at the back a little wave. I think they're all good. Lovely, I'm getting a thumbs up. Jodie, tell me, what was the hardest part immediately after your brain injury? What were the hard moments for you?
Well, I think probably what Damien said, a little bit closer, was the a lack of understanding. You know, I was at the Royal Adelaide Hospital in ICU. Well, not, I'd come out of ICU. I had amnesia and I was in the hospital, and the whole family knew what was going on. And I think one of the first things I said was, I need to get back to work. But I had no understanding of what my injury was or the impact or anything. And then, so it was that journey of discovery of what it meant to have a brain injury, and the lack of awareness, and then the fatigue. Like, you know, I could spend a whole day doing nothing, you know, while my brain was trying to recover itself, I think. So, yeah, it was. But also not having the brain, the ability to understand was probably a blessing, because I think it would have been absolutely overwhelming to know, if that makes sense.
It does, and you said there were some confronting moments, like not knowing if at some point maybe you'd forgotten your children. How difficult was that to, I suppose, come to grips with having that gap in your memory?
And that's still a journey. Like, you know, I said to Andrew one day, you know, because the family were wonderful, visiting me all the time, and then one day, I think even 6 months or even a year later, I said to Andrew, did I know who you were? Like, you know, because I had amnesia and they were visiting me. I said, you know, did I call you by name? Like, did I know who it was who was visiting me? And I almost feel like I'm, you know, a couple of months behind everyone else in, you know, they knew what had happened, they knew what injury it was, but I didn't, you know, and I don't even know if I had a knowledge of who they were so... Yeah, I felt behind the times. And as soon as I did get my memory back, I was like, oh, that must have been scary for them. Do they need help? I was like, oh, send the children off to get some therapy, because that must have been scary for them.
It's a typical mother response, isn't it? And Michael, what was the hardest part about your brain injury after your stroke?
Can I find a friend?
I've got some of your notes. What was difficult after your stroke? You said you weren't going to make jokes today. There's that wicked sense of humour I mentioned. What was the hardest part?
Probably the most difficult part was not being able to work anymore or drive. That was very difficult.
And how did that time make you feel?
Made me just feel like I'm a burden to other people. I was always independent and always rely on myself, which is not right actually.
And you mentioned as well, you know, not being able to drive, working for yourself. It must have been difficult, feeling like you didn't have as much independence.
Yes, it was difficult. Is it the answer?
And Jody, can you tell me, how has the injury that you experienced changed your life today? What are some of those, I guess, day-to-day symptoms that linger now? We heard Damien and John talk about a few, but what's your experience today?
Oh, it's my life doesn't reflect a pre-injury life. You know, little things like, or even walking up here, you know, the balance, finding words at times, and the fatigue. The cognitive fatigue. You know, not like being tired and needing a nap, but you know, the mental sharpness, trying to find that at different times of day. You know, I call it a brain fog at times, or so needing to adopt a lot of different strategies to be able to to get through the days, and so yes, it's quite different to a pre-injury life.
Michael, what about you? What do you experience today after your stroke in terms of symptoms?
Before I answer your question, I want to say thank you to everyone for being here. And thank you to the people who set up this venue.
I think they deserve a clap. It was a big thank you to all services that are out there. Michael, I know that you have quite a team around you, speech therapists.
Yes.
Physiotherapists.
Yes.
What difference do they make for you?
I'm very appreciative of the work that they do, and I want to say thank you to them.
Another clap. Go on. Jody, what helped you through that really difficult, I suppose, the acute period immediately after your injury and after that point as well? What helped you get through those really challenging times?
Well, I think having a goal, I think one of the first things that the medical people tell you is that, you know, there's a 3 month, 6 months, 1 year, 2 year sort of goal in your recovery. And I am with LSA, and then having appointments through brain injury, with OT, speech, I've got a psychologist, a physio, fitness, having a goal and having the support of the allied health people. And I just thought, well, if there are certain things that need to be done by 6 months, 12 months or 2 years, then, you know, and I actually call the people, I call them my team, and you know, they're a wonderful group of people, and I feel that they've made all, you know, my family and friends are my absolute support network, but my team have really made all the difference to my recovery so far, and I think it's so important that that's part of your journey.
Have you had a moment in particular that felt like a really pivotal step in your recovery? Just being able to do some of the things that I did pre-injury, where some little things where I thought, oh, I'm a little bit back in the real world again, because I actually feel lots of times like I'm in a different world to everyone else. I feel it's such an effort to be
in the real world. So when I do feel I'm in the real world, I go, oh, this is what it feels like again. So I can't actually pin something down, but yeah, every now and again I go, oh, this is what it feels like.
And Michael, what helped you through after your stroke?
My faith, my family, my friends, and most of always Naomi.
Has it been helpful being part of groups as well, because you're in a lived experience support group? I think you're also in a men's shed.
Yes, that's right.
Why are those things helpful?
Because I meet other people and I learn about their journey as well. So for me, that's important.
It's that connection, isn't it?
Yes.
Connecting with others.
Doing the craft is a bonus for me.
Mm-hmm. Jodie, can you tell me, what do you want people to know about your journey? What surprised you about, I'm sure there were lots of things that surprised you, but what surprised you about this process of recovery, of the injury, where you are today?
I think it's really important, the learning about lots and lots of strategies, taking little brain breaks for rests and things like that, and having to really schedule out my weeks so I have lots of rest time, and so I don't have too many things on in a week. So everything looks like a white, like a spreadsheet. Spontaneity is a bit out of the window. Those sort of things. But the fact that things are possible if you do, take all those strategies on board and do try things in that way. So, yeah.
What role has the feeling of gratitude played for you?
Oh, I'm, like Dame, very grateful that we have, living here, we have the medical support and the allied health services, and I'm so grateful for my family. I often, with the fatigue, at the end of the day, something as simple as cooking dinner is a bit of a challenge, and my family will they know that I don't cook dinner very often, and give me an absolute round of applause almost if I do, but they will all just ring and say, well, we'll pick something up, or we'll cook, or do something. But also I'm having been through a lot of challenges. Now I take time to so appreciate every little thing about the family and the friendship group, and just think how blessed we are.
Michael, what do you want people to know about your journey after your stroke?
I just want people to know that there are a lot of good people around, and there's light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I want people to know.
You've said that you were really impressed with how people supported you. Where have those groups and your church, where have they come into this process? Do you feel that people are really crucial to your recovery?
Yes, I do think that.
You're about to try to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
What was the question, sorry?
You're about to try to answer the phone.
I thought of my phone ringing, actually.
I'm glad it wasn't mine. That wouldn't have been a good look for me. Jodie, tell me, why is raising awareness important to you? Why did you want to sit up here today and share your experiences and your journey with everyone here?
I think, as we've talked about, no two brain injuries are the same. Sorry, I had to write something down because I wouldn't remember anything. No two brain injuries are the same and no two journeys are the same. And I feel it's really important that the general public is aware that it could be, for some people, a very non-visible injury, or that some of the physical implications, e.g. a lack of balance, a speech slur, or a lack of coordination, can be a result. The list is so long and varied, and I think it could help reduce anxiety for people and improve acceptance for people with a brain injury if there's just more awareness. I think, as Damien talked about, a down, lowering your head day, I don't think anyone should have a day like that. So I think if there's more awareness and acceptance, then that's a better thing for people. And I think these events and the organisations involved are doing great work towards that. So that's why I was willing to go through the anxiety of coming up here.
You're doing a great job. Thank you. Michael, why is awareness important to you?
It's important because I want people to realise that no two brain injuries are the same. And like I said before, there are a lot of good people, a lot of good therapists, and he's light at the end of the tunnel.
And that there is support out there.
Yes, that's right.
Michael, what's next for you? What are your goals?
Getting well again.
I know that you, like we've said, are really active in the community, play a really important role in your support groups, in your church, in your men's shed. And I think you're also about to get an electric bike. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
So watch out, everyone.
It comes with the license.
And Jodie, what's next for you? What are your goals going forward?
To continue to try and continue to. I don't know. I'm talking properly now.
It's a big question.
To continue my recovery, I think. And spend lots of time with my family and friends, and to keep on the journey.
Thank you so much to you both, Jodie and Michael, for being here today and for sharing those wonderful insights with us. Thank you, everyone. A big round of applause for our panellists. I'd now like to welcome Rick Howe from the Lifetime Support Authority up to the stage to present this year's Embrace Life After Brain Injury Award. A big round of applause for Rick, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel. And can I extend my thanks as well to the speakers today. It's a tough job to put yourself on a stage in front of an audience this big, irrespective of whether you have a brain injury or not. If you do, it's incredibly daunting, and I want to express my thanks to people for sharing their stories. As Chief Executive of the Lifetime Support Authority, it gives me great pleasure to be able to announce the winner of the 2023 Embrace Life After Brain Injury Awards. Some of you may know the Lifetime Support Authority delivers the state government's Lifetime Support Scheme, which provides treatment, care and support services for people who've been very seriously injured in motor vehicle accidents in South Australia. Right now, approximately 70% of those participants in the scheme have suffered traumatic brain injuries as a result of their car accident, making this week particularly relevant for the LSA. This year, there were a high volume of nominations for the award were received, all sharing remarkable stories and achievements. And I want to say thank you as well to all those who made nominations, and congratulations to everybody who was nominated. And I'd now like to announce that the recipient of the 2023 Embrace Life After Injury Award is Daniel Woolley. Thank you. While Daniel makes his way up to the stage, I'd just like to say a few words about what's happened. Daniel was involved in a car accident a little over 6 years ago, and he sustained severe diffuse axonal brain injury. Daniel, if you come up, you can come around the back. I'll let you have a seat on the stage whilst I tell people what happened.
I'll stand up.
Okay. That injury, as well as other life-threatening internal injuries, all arose from a crash that nearly took his life. But not only did Daniel survive against the odds, he's now thriving. At the Lifetime Support Authority, we know Daniel well, as he is a scheme participant, and it's been a privilege to watch his progress. Daniel spent a lot of time in rehabilitation in the first year after the accident, learning to breathe, speak, eat, read, write, walk again. And he's come such a long way since those days with the support of the therapy team. Helping him to move forward, he set some big goals and missions to work towards. One of Daniel's missions has been to prevent others from going through what he went through, and he now regularly volunteers with several organisations to share his story. In particular, he's a guest presenter with the Road Awareness Programme run by the MFS, with the Party Programme, that's preventing alcohol and risk-related trauma in youth, programmes run by the hospital system, and Rotary's Youth Driver Awareness programmes. These programmes work with high school students as well as adults, including correctional services, and they've been shown to have a positive impact on reducing the number of injuries and deaths to road users. Daniel's also about to collaborate with SAPOL in a road safety awareness campaign, and later this year will be a guest speaker at the RAA Street Smart High event at Adelaide's Entertainment Centre. As you can see, he's been fairly busy. He's also been invited to share his story with the board of the Lifetime Support Authority, for which we say thank you, and the Brain Injury Rehabilitation Unit, and has been featured in the Advertiser, local news, the radio, and on the cover of the RAA magazine. Some of Daniel's other goals have been more personal: to live independently, get a dog, find a partner, all things that he's since achieved. So one of his biggest achievements, however, is being the outstanding parent that he is to his two little girls, that he now takes full-time care of after a series of traumatic events in their lives. In Daniel's nomination, it says, "It's one thing to achieve a career or aspirational goal, but being a good parent is a hard job. To be an outstanding parent in this situation is the highest achievement." And whilst there are still hard days for Daniel, he pushes on to do what he sees are the most important jobs in the world, looking after his family and spreading road safety awareness through every channel that he can. And through this work, he's changing his and other people's lives for the better. Please join me in congratulating Daniel. And if you'd like to say a few words, you are. If you want to put that down, I'll let you stand by the microphone.
What a surprise it was to hear that I won the Embrace Life After Brain Injury Award. Thank you to my mum for secretly nominating me for it. And thank you to the selection committee for choosing me. I'm sure there was many other worthy nominations. What does embracing life after brain injury mean? Well, to me, it means making the most, absolute most, of the second chance I've had at life. In words of my second life, which started in April 2017, April 14th, sorry. My parents got the call to come to the hospital, and when they got there, they were told I'd been involved in a car crash, and I was in intensive care. While my car was rolling, my brain got shaken up of what's called a diffuse axonal brain injury. My brain was bleeding on the outside and small bleeds all over and throughout my brain. It took 2 hours to cut me from my vehicle. I had a 20-minute seizure at the scene of the crash as my brain couldn't cope with the trauma sustained. Then multiple seizures at a helicopter flew me from York Peninsula to the Royal Adelaide Hospital, where I had emergency surgery before going into the intensive care unit. When my parents got there and I was on life support and I was only given a 30% chance of survival. They were told if I survived, I might have been more than likely been in a veggie state. Not only did I have a severe brain injury, but I also lacerated my spleen, I also ruptured my diaphragm, and the contents of my guts were forced up in my chest cavity, collapsing my lungs. I had to relearn everything: breathing, eating, speaking, walking, going to the toilet, dressing myself, and 100 other things we all take for granted. I eventually regained my driver's licence and bought my own car, and I bought my own home. So where am I today? As I embrace my life after brain injury. Can I please have my water bottle from down there? I should have brought it up with me. So I do not drink alcohol, I do not smoke, I do not take drugs and the 3 prescribed by my doctor, which I'm trying to wean off of. I do not take unnecessary risks, I follow the rules. These things are crucial in helping the pathways to strengthen and grow in my brain. What disabilities am I still dealing with? Walking normally, balance, weakness in my left hand, concentration, memory, anxiety, I worry about things that are coming up like today, fatigue, I go to around 8 or 9 p.m, self-image, when people stare at me, internal and medical issues that impact my everyday life. The crash changed my life and it will never be the same again, and I will never be the same again. But I'm one of the lucky ones who survived and can now make a difference in my second life. Today I am not only focused on my well-being, but also am a strong advocate for road safety and road awareness. This year has been the worst for me, worst fatalities in 10 years. And those statistics don't include people like me, who are left with lifelong disabilities. I support several road awareness programs. Yes, sorry. I hope I can prevent someone else going through what I've been through, or other forms of trauma. So I work with lots of high schools and student adult groups, supporting teams and correctional services groups. I would like to thank the following organisations for having me as a guest speaker. MFS with the Road Awareness Program, the RA with the Party Program, and with the Rotary Club for the Rider Program. I'll also be soon working with the SAPOL, like you said, in their road safety programs. A special thank you to Lifetime Support Authority for their ongoing support from the early days after my crash. Thank you to my many therapists I've worked with over the years, including those from BIRU, or Brain Injury SA. Thank you to my mentor after 6 years, Eli Mern. In the words, show me the doors and I chose to open them and walk through them with pride. And thank you to my family. I could not be there or getting through the last 6 years without you. I encourage you all to embrace life, whether you have a brain injury or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, and congratulations.
Now to offer some closing remarks after today's event, I'd like to welcome the Chief Executive of Brain Injury SA, Liz Forsyth, to the stage.
Thank you very much, Isabel. I think it's been a great morning sharing journeys and learning more about the experience of brain injury, and I certainly feel very much more empowered to move forward and keep working the way we do to support the people that we do support. For over 30 years, BISA has been working in the community to provide services to people living with acquired brain injury. And our mission is to embrace life after brain injury. And that's clearly, I think, this morning it's also about a different life, but it's still about living. Brain Injury Awareness Week brings an important and necessary focus at a national level on the impact of brain injury. 1 in 40 people in Australia are living with brain injury, a highly individualised disability that is often invisible to others, but can be complex in its impact on the lives of the person and their families, as we've heard very much this morning. At BISA, we recognise the importance of increasing community understanding of brain injury, looking to find ways to improve its prevention, its management, and the lives of those who are impacted. As we've heard this morning, more evidence that no two brain injuries are alike. And congratulations to Daniel for his recognition of his award recognition, as well as his fantastic achievements. Thank you for sharing that. This year, we're pleased to add into the Week of Focus our Lunch and Learn series. We've done the launch for several years now, but we have not done this before. And it's helping the wider community learn more about brain injury via a small online session for lunch breaks. And we're really encouraging workplaces to take the opportunity to just have half an hour to learn a little bit more. Encourage any individual or workplace to participate in this series, and information on these can be found on your seats. You will have seen the flyer, but also on our website. And topics include some brain injury information, the National Assistance Card, which has been developed by Brain Injury Association of Tasmania, and it's a fantastic communication tool when you need it most, and it's one that can communicate to others about your needs and the management of your disability. And finally, a great corporate service collaboration to get people on solid pathways to employment that's being presented by Jigsaw and Allianz. And check it out and spend time learning over lunch if you can. It's only half an hour on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday at I think 1 o'clock. At BISA, we do enjoy events which we know connect people together, and in ways we missed so much during COVID. And I'm also going to make a brief mention of a couple of exciting events that we've got coming up. BISA will be having an involvement in a very special City to Bay event, and we'll share more about this very soon. So if you're interested in the City to Bay, it happens on September the 17th, and we're going to be involved in that, so please look out for that. And also, we have an exciting collaboration with Devine Productions, a musical theatre company in Adelaide, and they're putting on a production, A New Brain, an off-Broadway hit musical about a composer facing the challenge of a life-threatening diagnosis and subsequently discovering what is important in life. And we're looking forward very much to an uplifting night out of great music and performance, the proceeds of which will go to BISA. And we hope you can join us in this special performance on the 12th of October at the Star Theatre Hilton. And you can get tickets if you're interested. You can get in early, you can get tickets today or online, hopefully later this week on our website. So look out for that. And just in closing, I'd like to thank a few people, to those who made today's Awareness Week launch event happen. Thank you especially to our speakers, Damien, John, Jody and Michael. Sharing your stories takes courage and effort, but is so valuable to us all in increasing our understanding of brain injury. So a big thank you to all of you. Thank you to Isabel for being our MC. We really welcome having you along, so thank you for that. Thank you to our sponsors, LSA, Interact Australia, Medimart, Mella Olsen, and the Brain and Body Studio, which is a service of the Hospital Research Foundation. And thank you very much to our gallery exhibitors who've shared ways they have embraced life after brain injury. And I really encourage you to check out the exhibition of things that people are doing with their time and things that they're enjoying and getting that sense of living from out in the foyer over the morning refreshments. And thank you to Michael Brown MP, representing the SA Minister for Health and Wellbeing, and the Federal Minister Amanda Rishworth, who took their time with their messaging and their attendance, and really to say your involvement and interest is both appreciated and valued. And thank you, of course, to the wonderful BISA organising team for making this happen. And thank you particularly to Cassie, who I know has worked very hard to make this a smooth morning. But also particularly to the organising committee, because they all do it amongst the myriad of other things that they're doing in their daily week. So thank you very much. And finally, thank you all for coming out this morning and joining us online for this event. We now have a very large streaming audience, which has really been the gift of COVID, but we're really pleased that you can be there with us as well. And we appreciate the support for the sharing that you're doing with us that's occurred today. I look forward to having a chance to talk to more of you, and hopefully you'll enjoy chatting to each other over some refreshments. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Liz, and one last thank you from me to our wonderful speakers today. You all did a fantastic job, and more than that, it's a very generous thing to share your personal experiences and what you've learned, so thank you again. I hope you can all stay and join us for morning tea and enjoy the artworks in the gallery. As Liz mentioned, please see Convention Centre staff for any dietary requirements. One last time, for all your support, thank you for being here for the Brain Injury Awareness Week launch for 2023. Please share what you've learned today and the insights you're taking away with everyone in your community. And we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you.